Terminally ill adults end-of-life bill, second reading.
The reasoned amendment in the name of Dr. Ben Spencer has not been selected. Kim Leadbeater will now move the second reading. I call Kim Leadbeater.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you to everyone who is attending this hugely significant debate today. It is a privilege to open the debate on the terminally ill adults end-of-life bill, a piece of legislation which would give dying people, under very stringent criteria, choice, autonomy and dignity at the end of their lives. I welcome this debate on this hugely important issue, and I beg to move that the bill be read a second time. And let me say to colleagues across the House, particularly new colleagues, I know that this is not easy. It certainly hasn't been easy for me. But if any of us wanted an easy life, I'm afraid we're in the wrong place. It is our job to address complex issues and make difficult decisions. And I know for many people this is a very difficult decision. But our job is also to address the issues that matter to people. And after nearly a decade since this subject was debated on the floor of the House, many would say this debate is long overdue. For my part, I have tried incredibly hard to ensure that the tone of the debate has and continues to be robust, of course, but most importantly, respectful and compassionate. And I am pleased that for the most part that has been the case. I know I can be confident that that same tone of respect and compassion will be adopted by colleagues today, whatever views they may hold. This is particularly important as we have people in the gallery who have a very strong personal interest in this issue. People who hold a range of views, but some of whom have lost loved ones in very difficult and traumatic circumstances, and others who are themselves terminally ill. And I want to pay a huge and heartfelt tribute to those families and to every single person who has contacted me about this issue, and in many cases shared their own very personal stories of loss and death. I know from my own personal experience of grief that telling your story over and over again takes energy, courage and strength. And I'm incredibly grateful to you all. It is your voices and your stories which have inspired me. And Mr. Speaker, such stories are difficult to hear, but it is vital that they are heard as they are at the heart of this debate. And they show that the law is failing people. And where that is the case, we have a duty to do what is right to fix it. For those who are here today or watching at home, they are dealing with the very real consequences of the failings of the current system. I will start by recounting just a few of those stories. Warwick was married to his wife Anne for nearly 40 years. She had terminal peritoneal cancer, which meant she couldn't breathe properly. She spent 4 days gasping and choking, remaining awake throughout, despite being given the maximum dose of sedatives, and eventually died of suffocation. She had begged Warwick to end her life, but as he stood over her with a pillow, he could not do what she asked, as he didn't want that to be her final memory of him. Anne had excellent palliative care, but it simply could not ease her suffering. Tim fell in love at first sight when he met his wife Louise. He proposed after just 3 days, but Louise got cancer twice. And at the end, the morphine simply could not control her pain. In desperation, she managed to smash a small glass bottle and tried to take her own life, not realising that her toddler daughter had got into bed with her. Tim found her. He says, "You get to a point where you stop praying for a miracle and start praying for mercy." Former police officer James waved his mum off as she embarked on her final trip to Dignitas. She had terminal vasculitis. James desperately wanted to accompany his mum and hold her hands during her final moments. But he knew, because of his job as a police officer, it was just not possible. Indeed, she insisted he must not go with her. So she went alone. No one to hold her hand, no proper goodbye or funeral. These are just a few examples of the heartbreaking reality and human suffering which far too many people are experiencing as a result of the status quo. And the public know this. Mr. Speaker, I've always been keen to ensure that my politics stays rooted in the world beyond Westminster. And it's clear that public opinion is very much in favour of a change in the law. Polling shows consistently that around 75% of people would like to see the legalisation of assisted dying for terminally ill, mentally competent adults. These findings are significant, but it may not be that surprising that most people believe, as I do, that we should all have the right to make the choices and decisions we want about our own bodies. And let's be clear, We are not talking about a choice between life or death. We are talking about giving dying people a choice of how to die. Yeah.